Okay, ready to start putting the carburetor back together. One of the things I recommend is on your hot start. That thing needs to be greased. A lot of times these things are bad about sticking. They'll stick open, they'll cause a lot of problems. So make sure it's clean, and I've actually got a little too much grease here. But what I do is kind of pack some up in the springs. It's not going to hurt a thing up in there. And it'll actually help seal it off. Put a light coat on the plunger itself, and from there we're going to slide it back into the carburetor now. Okay, the hot start can be a little bit tricky to get back in, but what you do is slide it into the hole in the carburetor, slide the plunger in, and make sure you turn it in the right direction. I've seen a lot of guys turn, they'll work themselves to death and they're not turning in the right direction. You may have to play around with it. Sometimes it's kind of a pain to get it started. Usually once you get it started, it'll go on and go right in. And from there, you just snug it down with the wrench. Okay, we've got the hot start lever back together. Now we're going to put your throttle cables back in. You'll start on the bottom with the cable that pulls. Slide that into the barrel into the hole. These things, it's really tight in here, so sometimes it's kind of a pain. Get that one in, and then the push cable goes in next. Slide that cable in. Alright, and from there now we're going to slide the ends of the throttle cable, each throttle cable back into the housing where they go, and we're going to adjust the tension on the throttle cable from here. You want to have just a little bit of play. You can't really see this in the lever, but there's just a little bit of play there, and that's really what you want. So once you get those in, make sure you lock those down. Make sure they're all the way into the carburetor body. And snug these down. Not too tight, but you want them, you want them snug. You don't want them to come loose. Okay, so we've got the throttle cable hooked back up. Just make sure you check it, make sure it works, make sure you do have a little bit of free play. You can see right here, you can see there's some play in the cable as I'm working the throttle. Just a little bit, you don't need a lot. And that's got that. Okay, the next thing, you're going to put the cover back over the throttle cables. Should pop right into place, and put your Allen screw back in and snug that down. I've actually put bikes together before, been in a hurry, not thinking, and didn't put the cover plate back on. This is it's not fun to do it when the bike's back together. So we've got that. We're ready to put the carburetor back on now. Okay, when you go to put the carburetor back on, you'll notice there's a notch in the boot over here, and there's a small little piece on the carburetor. Those line up. So what you'll do now is you'll press the carburetor, make sure it's fully seated, and make sure it's lined up in that notch. And from there, and remember, I did have to replace this screw, but we're going to go ahead and the carburetor's in place. We're going to go ahead and tighten the clamp up. And your carburetor should be on there. Alright, next we're going to go ahead, it's a lot easier to do it now. Go ahead and run your vent lines. We'll go ahead and put them in where they go. And since everything's out of the way, you got plenty of room to work. Carburetor vent lines, where they go. And next we're going to put the subframe back on. We're only going to attach the boot to the carburetor, but we'll get that on, and then we're going to cover getting everything else back together. Okay, what we're going to do now, we're going to slide the air boot through, and we're going to put it back onto the carburetor. It's actually a lot easier doing it this way. It's something that can be a little bit aggravating, but take your time, be kind of patient, and it should go right back on. Okay, once you've got the air boot back on the carburetor, the nice thing about having the shock out is you can actually go around to the other side, and on the back side you can make sure that the air boot is completely onto the carburetor everywhere. And once we've got that, we'll go ahead and we're going to tighten down the clamp. And we're going to leave the bolts out of the air box because we want to be able to move that over and out of the way so we can get the shock in. But tighten your clamp down, and we are ready to put the shock back in now. Okay, just like we took the shock out, what you're going to do is kind of pull the air box over and slide the shock down into the bottom. Again, we want to line it up at the bottom first, and from there we're going to go in and drop the bolt in the bottom of the shock. Okay, get your shock lined up over here, slide the bolt back through, and you're going to have to may have to raise the wheel up a little bit, and we'll get that bolt in. We're not going to put the nut on that side yet. We're going to wait till we get the top in, and then we'll put both the nuts on and tighten those back down. Alright, what I've got now is I adjusted the height of the stand. That way I don't have to work with getting the suspension raised up. Don't have to worry about raising the rear wheel up. Slide your bolt through, and from there you'll put the nut on both the bottom and the top, and you'll tighten those down. Alright, now that we've got the shock back in, bolts have been torqued to spec. There again, you need a factory service manual. There is a certain torque that these bolts are supposed to be torqued to, and it's a really good idea to follow that. Now what you'll do is go ahead and put your top bolt in on the subframe, and don't tighten anything down yet, because a lot of times you get stuff in a bind and then you won't be able to tighten it down. We're going to get the lower one on that side, and move around, and we'll get the lower bolt on the back side. Once you've got all the bolts, all three bolts in, they're started, then go ahead and tighten everything down. Okay, next step is going to be to slide the tank on. Watch your fuel line. Ease that down through the frame, and then the tank should pretty much just drop into place from there. Put your bolts back in, put your tank retainer back in on the back side, and don't forget to hook the fuel line up. I've done that a few times myself. It's kind of embarrassing. So that's pretty much it. Really not too complicated. Just take your time. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call or shoot us an email. Go to the website www.forshuemotorsports.com, and be glad to help you out any way we can. And hopefully you've learned something from the videos. And if you have any suggestions, feel free to shoot us an email. We'll be glad to try to get some videos up that you're needing help with. So again, thanks a lot for watching the video, and don't forget to check us out on the website. Thanks.